What's up, guys, and welcome to another video. For those of you who don't already know me, I'm Blackwood, your Silicon Valley sage sister, here to bring consciousness to the forefront of your daily life to make life a little kinder and simpler. For this video, I want to talk about the top 5 best pieces of advice that I've gotten from the top mentors, coaches, people who give advice. Number 1 is how we do anything is how we do everything. I want you to start looking for trends in your life, because how we do anything is how we do everything. And when it comes to recognizing those trends, we can start recognizing what things we're doing that create outcomes that aren't optimal to the ones we want, and we can recognize what we do when we create the optimal outcomes. I also want you to look at not just yourself, but I want you to look at how people react to you in situations and see if you can recognize any trends, any similarities to situations, because those can give you insight into what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong when it comes to creating your optimal outcomes in life. This brings me to number 2, which is that when it comes to taking advice from others, when it comes to studying things, when it comes to pretty much anything, take what works for you, take what's good, and leave the rest. There are a few situations where you can't do this, where, for instance, you can't leave the rest. It's not possible. A close relationship, for instance, is a good example of this. You may have a relationship where most everything's good, but there are a couple of bad things that are really bad. Or you might have a situation where there's some good things, but there's more bad things. This is an example of a situation where you can't leave the rest because you literally can't leave it. So in times like these, we have to recognize that you can't take the good and leave the rest, so this doesn't apply. But when it comes to things like, again, taking advice, I try to structure the videos that I do so that they work for anybody of any value system, of any walk of life. But when it doesn't, take what works for you and leave the rest. There are situations where, for instance, you have to follow step-by-step instructions. Those are often times where you have to literally do it step by step and all the steps are important. Those are times you can't leave things behind. But when it comes to, acquaintances, people that you're only going to see for a short period of time or only going to work with on a semi basis of any kind, you can just focus on what's good and leave the rest. When it comes to things like, again, working with things that came from the past, like, we study Freud in psychology, but Freud has been updated on with empirical science since, so we leave behind what he thought that we've realized isn't right, and we continue on with some of the things that he was right about. Our Constitution of America, for instance, is a great place where people can do this. We have the way it's worded, which is amazing. That's why people consider it the most amazing document, because no matter what anyone intended at the time, we can take the way it's worded and work with that now. All men are created equal. It doesn't matter if what they meant were men or white men. It says all men are created equal. We can consider that human and move on from there. Leave the rest. Take what's working, because otherwise you fill yourself with stress. You find yourself stressed out about things that don't matter. And why do that to yourself? Take what works, leave the rest. Stop stressing about things that you're just making yourself stress out about. And this brings me to number 3, which is beliefs are just thoughts we think a lot. When it comes to our belief systems, and I've talked about this in videos before, they literally are just thoughts that we think the most. And I want you to think about this. When has your mind been changed because one person or the right source has come to you with a piece of information which has totally changed your outlook on something? That's how easy it is to change your belief system. You want to recognize that there are credible sources of information out there for all sorts of things. So if life isn't working out your way, it's most likely your belief system that's causing you to walk life in a certain way, walk life's path in a certain way. And so if you start recognizing what thoughts you're thinking that build up that belief system, because our belief systems are just stories we tell ourselves, which lead us to see the evidence that back that story up. But there's evidence for all sorts of belief systems. So it's all about just being able to shift your mindset in a way in which allows you to start seeing evidence for more than just the stories you're telling yourself. This brings me to number 4. Be it until you see it. I talk about you can't fake it till you make it. You have to be it till you see it. And this is very important because when it comes to trying to fake it till you make it, not only can other people tell you're faking it, but you know you're faking it, which actually studies show leads to an increase in the bad emotions that you're trying to get rid of. You have to actually, through your belief system, change the way you think about something, change the way you're doing it in order for it to work. So even if you're not seeing the most optimal outcome, you want to make sure that with things like affirmations, for instance, they're ones that you can really get behind. They're ones you can really believe in, because otherwise they're just going to remind you of what you're not doing or what you don't have, and that's going to make it worse. This is usually where I come in, because with clients, with us as people, as humans in general, we have blind spots to how things are already amazing or what paths get us to what our optimal outcome is. And it helps to have someone else be able to give you that outside perspective. This leads me to number 5. Last but definitely not least, you are what you attract. This is important because people these days like to blame everything on everyone else. But the thing is when it comes to the law of attraction, when it comes to life in general, whether you look at it on a spiritual or a practical level, I'm just going to call it the law of attraction for the sake of using a simple term that everybody understands. But this isn't necessarily a magical thing. This is a very practical thing. We literally are the cause of the outcomes in our life. We can have people around us, for instance, who help, how would I put it? I had a really good way of putting it. Stimulate specific responses. That's what it was. We have other people in our lives who can help stimulate specific responses from us. But at the end of the day, we're choosing how we feel. They're not. They're doing things that are stimulating responses from us, but we choose what that response is. So recognizing that you're responsible for allowing that person in your life, let alone responsible for how you react. We are what we attract. So being able to change who we are, how we are, to make sure that we're not allowing those things that make us upset, uncomfortable into our lives by quite literally taking responsibility for how we influence our own lives is very, very important. I talk about this in one of my other videos. You know, you have those people who are like, I can never meet anybody really good. All of the men are crap, or all of the girls are crap. But then take zero responsibility for the fact that they're going out to bars at night, seedy bars at that, to go find their choice of potential life mate, rather than, I don't know, going to like a college or something. Not that that's a great place to find people right now anyway, especially for a certain type of person, but you know what I mean. You know, like as a general, just to give you a metaphor that kind of is a general stereotype for this. You know, if you want to find somebody that you want to just have constant hookups with, which that never makes anybody happy in the grand scheme of things. Like, we're just not built that way as animals, really, even though people want to say that we are. Uh, if you're looking for somebody, for instance, who you want to actually settle down with and have a long-term relationship with, whether that be a friend or a love relationship, you want to go looking for those people in places that you actually would find the ideal person you're looking for. So if you want a stand-up guy, for instance, as a woman, and you're going to the seedy bar at night, ask yourself, does that make sense? Is that where the stand-up gentleman that I'm actually looking for go? So why am I looking there if the answer is no? You've got to change the way you're doing things if you want things to change in your life. Period. End of story. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me for another video. Speaking of which, when it comes to changing your life, that is, I have my Patreon, which has 4 different tiers, and as well, like here on YouTube, has free content. I've been sharing some content between Patreon and YouTube for free recently, but usually my content is exclusive to YouTube or Patreon. So there's a year and a half's worth at a minimum of amazing exclusive content on both YouTube and Patreon, which means that while you're here on YouTube, remember to subscribe if you haven't, because I need my custom URL. And I can't get that without a certain amount of subscribers, because that's YouTube's rules. So help me become youtube.com/balancedblackwood rather than youtube.com/randomly generated blah, 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 blah. And go check out my Patreon page, which leads me to the last thing I want to mention, which is that up until Sunday, I am leaving open my session cycle application process. So if you've been considering working with me one-on-one, now is the time, because you have until Sunday, which is 4 days from now, when this video is posted on a Thursday, to get your application in, because my cycle session is officially starting on Monday. I've left it open. I've put it off because I know I've heard from some of you, and I've been feeling from some of you, people on the fence. So I wanted to give you a little more time, because if there's one thing I understand, it's what it used to be like to actually be able to commit to doing the right thing for myself, helping myself, doing the good things. So I'm leaving that open for a couple more days. So check out YouTube. Remember to check out YouTube. Remember to subscribe on YouTube. Check out Patreon and sign up for my one-on-one counseling. I know you're out there. I can feel you. Now's the time. May the energy you serve you well, and I'll see you in the next one if I don't see you one-on-one.